Sarah Cole's hand shook as she tore open the brown paper package. The postman had left it on her porch that morning without a word. No return address. Just her name written in black ink that looked like it was drawn with anger. Inside was leather. Jake's vest. The one he wore the day they took him. Sarah dropped it on the kitchen table like it burned her fingers. She stepped back. Her heart hammered so hard she could hear it in her ears. The vest still smelled like him. Smoke and horses and the oil he used on his motorcycle. That smell hit her like a fist to the chest. Jake had been dead for 3 weeks. They shot him in the street in front of the saloon in Copper Ridge. 5 men from the Scorpions gang. They made sure everyone saw it happen. Made sure everyone knew what happens when you cross them. The marshal did nothing. The townspeople did nothing. Sarah did nothing because she was 20 miles away on the ranch when it happened. By the time someone rode out to tell her, Jake was already in the ground. Now his vest was here, on her table, in her house. Sarah's throat felt tight. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. But she'd cried enough these past 3 weeks. Cried until her eyes burned and her head pounded, and still Jake was gone. The Hells Angels don't cry, Jake used to say. They collect. She didn't know what that meant back then. Maybe she was about to find out. Sarah forced herself to pick up the vest again. It was heavy, heavier than she remembered. She turned it over in her hands and felt something stiff in the inside pocket. She reached in and pulled out a folded piece of paper that had been tucked deep in the lining. Her hands were still shaking as she unfolded it. It was a list. 7 names written in Jake's handwriting. Some she recognized, some she didn't. But at the top of the list was a name that made her blood run cold. Marshal Raymond Cutler. The same marshal who stood and watched while the Scorpions shot Jake in the street. Below the names was a message. Also in Jake's handwriting. Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone. These men know what happened. Find them. Make them talk. The truth is in Copper Ridge. Don't trust the law. Don't trust anyone except the names on this list. I'm sorry I brought this to our door. Finish what I started. Sarah read it 3 times. Her mind was spinning. Jake had known. He'd known they were coming for him. He'd known and he hadn't run. He hadn't warned her. He'd just written this letter and hidden it in his vest and gone to town anyway. What truth was he talking about? And why did Marshal Cutler's name come first? Sarah walked to the window and looked out at the ranch. Dust blew across the empty corral. The barn door swung open and shut in the wind. She hadn't been able to fix it since Jake died. Hadn't been able to do much of anything. The ranch felt too big now. Too quiet. And dangerous. Because if Jake had hidden this list, and if someone sent her his vest, that meant people knew. The Scorpions knew. Maybe the marshal knew. Maybe they were watching right now to see what she would do. Sarah folded the paper and put it in her apron pocket. She looked at the vest again. On the back was the Hells Angels patch. A skull with wings. Jake had sewn it on himself the day he joined the club 5 years ago. He'd been so proud. That patch got him killed. But maybe it could also get her answers. Sarah made a decision. She wasn't going to sit on this ranch and wait for them to come for her too. She wasn't going to let Jake's death mean nothing. If he wanted her to find these people and make them talk, that's exactly what she was going to do. Even if it killed her. She pulled the vest on over her dress. It was too big. The sleeves hung past her hands. But she rolled them up and buttoned it tight. Then she walked to the bedroom and opened the trunk at the foot of the bed. Inside was Jake's revolver. She'd never fired a gun in her life, but she was about to learn. Sarah loaded the revolver the way she'd seen Jake do it 100 times. 6 bullets. She checked the chamber twice to make sure. Then she tucked it into her belt. She folded the list and put it in the vest pocket where Jake had hidden it. Then she walked outside to the barn. Jake's motorcycle was still there, covered in dust. She hadn't touched it since he died. Hadn't been able to look at it. But now she needed it. Sarah pulled the cover off and stared at the machine. Black metal. Chrome pipes. The seat was cracked leather. Jake had taught her to ride it once, years ago, but she'd been too scared. Too worried she'd crash. She wasn't worried anymore. She climbed on and found the key still in the ignition. Her hands found the handlebars. Her feet found the pedals. She turned the key. The engine roared to life. The sound echoed across the empty ranch like thunder. And that's when Sarah saw them. 2 riders on horses at the edge of her property, watching her. Both wore red bandanas. They'd been waiting. One of them raised his hand and pointed at her. Then they turned their horses and rode toward the house. Sarah didn't think. She twisted the throttle and the motorcycle lurched forward. The two scorpions were already halfway to the house. Their horses kicked up dust as they galloped across her land like they owned it. Maybe they thought they did. Sarah aimed the motorcycle toward the main road. Away from the house. Away from them. The engine screamed beneath her. Wind hit her face. The vest flapped behind her like wings. She looked back once. The scorpions had stopped at her porch. One of them dismounted and walked inside her house. Just walked right in like she didn't exist. Sarah's jaw clenched, but she kept riding. Because Jake's message said don't trust anyone. And two men with guns against one woman who'd never fired a shot wasn't a fight. It was a slaughter. She had to get to Copper Ridge. Had to find the first name on Jake's list. The road stretched out in front of her. Dry and cracked and empty. Mountains rose up on both sides. The sun was climbing higher and the heat was already making the air shimmer. Sarah's mind raced as fast as the motorcycle. Marshal Cutler was the first name. That meant he was important. But the marshal had watched Jake die, so either he was part of it, or he knew something he wasn't saying. Either way, he had answers. The problem was walking up to the marshal and demanding those answers was a good way to end up like Jake. Sarah needed help. She needed someone who knew the scorpions, someone who knew the Hells Angels, someone who could tell her what Jake was really into before he died. The second name on the list came to her mind, Thomas Bone McKenna. She knew that name. Jake had mentioned him before. Bone was another Hells Angel. Older than Jake. Meaner from what she'd heard. He ran a shop in Copper Ridge fixing motorcycles and selling parts. If anyone knew what Jake was doing, it would be Bone. Sarah pushed the motorcycle faster. The ride took 2 hours. 2 hours of dust and heat in her arms aching from holding the handlebars. 2 hours of watching behind her to see if the scorpions were following. They weren't, but that didn't mean they wouldn't. Copper Ridge appeared ahead like a brown smudge on the horizon. The town was small, maybe 300 people. One main street with buildings on both sides. A saloon, a general store, the marshal's office, and somewhere in the back streets, Bone's shop. Sarah slowed the motorcycle as she entered town. People stopped and stared. A woman in a Hells Angels vest riding a dead man's motorcycle wasn't something you saw every day. She ignored them. She rode past the saloon where Jake died. There was still a dark stain on the dirt out front. Sarah's stomach twisted, but she kept going. She found Bone's shop 2 streets over. It was a low building with a tin roof and a sign that said McKenna Motors. 3 motorcycles sat out front in various states of being torn apart. Sarah killed the engine and climbed off. Her legs were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. She took a breath and walked to the door. It was open. Inside was dark and smelled like oil and metal. Tools hung on every wall. Parts were scattered across workbenches. And in the back, bent over a motorcycle engine, was a man built like a bear. Bone McKenna. He was huge, maybe 6'5", arms covered in scars and tattoos. Gray hair pulled back in a ponytail. He wore a black vest with the same Hells Angels patch Jake had worn. He didn't look up when Sarah walked in. "Shop's closed," he said. His voice was rough like gravel. "I need to talk to you," Sarah said. "I said closed. It's about Jake Cole." Bone's hand stopped moving. He straightened up slowly and turned around. When he saw her wearing Jake's vest, his face went hard. "Who the hell are you?" he asked. "Sarah Cole, Jake's wife." Bone stared at her for a long moment. Then his eyes dropped to the vest. "That's Jake's," he said. "Yes. Where'd you get it?" "Someone mailed it to me this morning." Bone's jaw tightened. "Who? I don't know." There was no return address. "And you came here why?" Sarah reached into the vest pocket and pulled out the folded list. She held it out to him. Bone didn't move it first. Then he walked over and took the paper from her hand. He unfolded it and read it. His face changed. The hardness turned to something else, something that looked like fear. "Where did you get this?" he asked quietly. "It was hidden in the vest." "Jake wrote it. Your name is on it. Second from the top." Bone looked at her again. His eyes were sharp now, calculating. "You read the whole thing?" he asked. "And you came here anyway?" "You're either brave or stupid." "Maybe both," Sarah said. Bone almost smiled, almost. Then his face went hard again. You need to leave Copper Ridge, he said, right now. Get on that bike and ride as far as you can and don't come back. Not until I know what happened to Jake. What happened to Jake is he crossed the wrong people and they killed him for it. That's all you need to know. That's not enough. Bone stepped closer. He was so big he blocked out the light from the door. Listen to me carefully, he said. Jake was working on something dangerous. Something that got him killed. If the Scorpions know you have that list, they'll kill you too. If the marshal knows, he'll make sure you disappear. You don't want any part of this. I'm already part of it, Sarah said. 2 Scorpions showed up at my ranch this morning. They went inside my house. They're looking for something. Bone cursed under his breath. Did they see you leave? He asked. Yes. Did they follow you? I don't think so. You don't think so? I watched the road. I didn't see anyone. Bone turned away and walked to the window. He looked out at the street, watching, thinking. You put a target on your back the second you put on that vest, he said. You know that, right? I know. And you still want to do this. Jake asked me to finish what he started. So yes, I'm going to do this. Bone was quiet for a long time, then he turned back to her. Jake was gathering evidence, he said, against the Scorpions and against Marshal Cutler. They've been working together. The Scorpions run guns and liquor through Copper Ridge and the Marshal looks the other way. In exchange, Cutler gets a cut of the money. Jake found proof. Document. Enough to put them all in prison. Sarah's heart was pounding. Where's the proof now? That's the problem, Bone said. Jake hid it. And he didn't tell anyone where. We think that's why they killed him. They tortured him first, tried to make him talk. But Jake didn't break. Sarah felt sick. They tortured him? Bone nodded. I'm sorry. I thought you knew. She didn't. The people who told her Jake was dead said it was quick, 5 shots and he went down. They didn't mention torture. They lied to her. The names on the list, Sarah said, forcing herself to focus. Who are they? People Jake trusted. People who can help you find the evidence. But you have to understand something, Sarah. Half these people are already dead. The Scorpions have been picking them off one by one. If you start asking questions, you'll be next. Then I'd better ask fast. Bone stared at her. Then he shook his head. You really are crazy, he said. Will you help me or not? Bone looked at the list again. Then he looked at Sarah. Then he sighed. Yeah, he said. I'll help you. But we do this my way. And if I tell you to run, you run. Understood? Bone folded the list and handed it back to her. Then he walked to a cabinet in the corner and pulled out a gun belt, 2 revolvers. He strapped it around his waist. First thing we need to do is talk to the 3rd name on that list, he said. Annie Gray. She works at the saloon. She was Jake's contact inside the Scorpions. If anyone knows where Jake hid the evidence, it's her. Why didn't Jake just tell you? Sarah asked. Because he didn't trust me, Bone said simply. Not completely. Jake didn't trust anyone completely. That's what kept him alive as long as it did. Bone walked to the door and looked out again. Then he turned back to Sarah. One more thing, he said. When we walk out there, people are going to notice. A Hell's Angel and Jake Cole's widow together. That's going to get back to the Scorpions within the hour. So once we start this, we can't stop. We're committed. You understand? Sarah nodded. I understand. All right then. Bone stepped outside. Sarah followed him into the sunlight, and that's when she saw Marshal Cutler standing across the street. He was watching them, and he was smiling. Marshal Cutler didn't move. He just stood there outside his office with his arms crossed, and that smile on his face like he'd been waiting for them. Bone saw him too. Keep walking, Bone said quietly. Don't look at him. Don't stop. Sarah's heart was hammering, but she did what Bone said. She walked beside him down the street toward the saloon. She could feel Cutler's eyes on her back the whole way. The saloon was called the Dusty Rose. It was the biggest building on the main street, 2 stories tall with a balcony on the 2nd floor. Piano music drifted out through the open doors even though it was barely noon. Bone pushed through the doors and Sarah followed. Inside it was dark and cool. The piano player sat in the corner playing something slow and sad. A few men sat at tables drinking. The bartender wiped down glasses behind the bar, and in the back corner, serving drinks to 2 cowboys, was a woman with black hair and green eyes, Annie Gray. She looked up when Bone and Sarah walked in. Her eyes went wide when she saw Sarah's vest. Then she saw Bone and her face went pale. She set down the drinks and walked over fast. Outside, she hissed, "Now." She didn't wait for an answer. She pushed past them and went out the back door of the saloon. Bone and Sarah followed. The back alley was narrow and smelled like garbage and old beer. Annie turned on them the second the door closed. "Are you insane?" she snapped at Bone. "Bringing her here? In that vest? Cutler probably already knows you're in town." "He does," Bone said. "We saw him." Annie cursed. She looked at Sarah. "You're Jake's wife. And you're wearing his vest because you want to die young. Is that it?" "I want to know what happened to my husband," Sarah said. "What happened is he stuck his nose where it didn't belong and got it shot off. That's what happened." "Annie," Bone said quietly. "She has the list." Annie froze. "What list?" Sarah pulled out the paper and handed it to her. Annie's hands were shaking as she read it. When she finished, she looked at Sarah with something like respect. "Jake sent you this?" she asked. "It was hidden in his vest. Someone mailed it to me." "Who?" "I don't know." Annie looked at Bone. "This is bad." "I know. If the Scorpions know she has this, they probably do." Annie swore again. She paced back and forth in the alley, thinking. "Okay," she said finally. "Okay, here's what I know. Jake was close. Real close. He had ledgers showing every illegal deal Cutler and the Scorpions made for the past 2 years. Dates. Everything. He was going to take it to the territorial governor in Phoenix. Get them all arrested." "Where are the ledgers?" Sarah asked. "That's the problem. Jake hid them. He told me he put them somewhere safe. Somewhere no one would look. But he never told me where. Why not? Because the Scorpions had already killed 2 of our people. Jake didn't want me tortured for information I didn't have. So he kept it to himself." Sarah felt sick again thinking about what they did to Jake. "There has to be a clue," Bone said. "Something. Jake wouldn't just hide evidence without leaving a way for someone to find it." Annie thought for a moment, then her eyes lit up. "The church," she said. "What about it?" Bone asked. "Jake went to the church the day before he died. He was there for over an hour. I asked him what he was doing, and he said he was making peace with God." "Jake didn't believe in God," Bone said. "Exactly." Sarah's mind was racing. The church. He hid the ledgers in the church. "Maybe," Annie said. "It makes sense. It's the one place the Scorpions would never look. They're not exactly religious men." Bone nodded slowly. "All right. We checked the church." Sarah asked. "Now," Bone said, "before Cutler figures out what we're doing." "Too late for that." The voice came from behind them. Sarah spun around. Marshal Cutler stood at the end of the alley. He had his gun drawn, and he wasn't alone. 3 Scorpions stood behind him, all armed, all smiling. "I had a feeling you'd lead me right to it," Cutler said. He was looking at Sarah. "Jake's widow. Coming to town wearing his vest. Talking to his friends. I knew you'd know something." "I don't know anything," Sarah said. "Don't lie to me, girl. You got that list. And that list is going to tell me where Jake hid my property." "It's not your property," Bone said. "It's evidence. Evidence that's going to put you in prison." Cutler laughed. "You think anyone's going to believe a dead biker and his friends over a marshal? I'll just say you were criminals. Thieves." "Who's going to argue?" The new voice came from above them. Everyone looked up. A man stood on the balcony of the saloon. He was older, maybe 60. He wore a black suit and a white-collar taute. Priest Father Michael Hayes. Sarah recognized him from the funeral. He'd said words over Jake's grave even though Jake never went to church. The priest was holding a shotgun. "This conversation is over, Raymond," Father Hayes said calmly. "Put your gun away and leave these people alone." Cutler's face turned red. "This is official business, Father. You need to stay out of it." "Official business doesn't usually involve threatening widows in back alleys," the priest said. "Now I'm going to count to 3. And if you're still here when I reach 3, I'm going to assume you mean harm to these people. And I'm going to stop you." Cutler looked furious, but he looked at the shotgun and he hesitated. 2. "This isn't over," Cutler said. He looked at Sarah. "I'll find those ledgers, with or without you." Then he turned and walked away. The 3 Scorpions followed him. Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Father Hayes lowered the shotgun. "All of you." Inside. They went up the back stairs to a room above the saloon. It was small and plain, a bed, a chair, a cross on the wall, the priest's room. Father Hayes closed the door and locked it. Then he turned to Sarah. "You're Sarah Cole," he said. "Yes, Father. Jake spoke about you. He loved you very much." Sarah felt tears sting her eyes, but she blinked them back. Thank you. The priest looked at Bone and Annie, then back to Sarah. Jake came to see me the day before he died, he said. He told me he was in trouble. He told me he had evidence that could destroy powerful men, and he asked me to keep it safe. Sarah's heart jumped. You have the ledgers? No, Father Hayes said, but I know where they are. He walked to a small desk in the corner and pulled out a key. It was old and brass and had a number stamped on it. Jake rented a box at the train station, the priest said. Box number 17. This is the key. He told me to give it to someone he trusted if anything happened to him. He gave me a name. What name? Bone asked. Father Hayes looked at Sarah. Yours, he said. Sarah stared at the key. He knew. He knew they were going to kill him, and he planned for it. Jake was many things, the priest said gently, but he wasn't stupid. He knew the risks, and he wanted to make sure his death meant something. Sarah took the key. It was warm in her hand. The train station is 2 blocks from here, Annie said. But Cutler knows we're looking for something. He'll have men watching. Then we need a distraction, Bone said. I'll do it, Annie said. I'll walk out the front. Make a scene. Draw their attention. You two go out the back and get to the station. That's dangerous, Sarah said. Annie smiled. Honey, everything we're doing is dangerous. Might as well be useful while we're at it. Bone nodded. All right. We go now. Father Hayes put a hand on Sarah's shoulder. Be careful, child. And when you get those ledgers, get them to the territorial governor. Don't trust anyone else. I won't, Sarah said. They moved fast. Annie went down the front stairs and out into the saloon. A minute later, they heard her shouting, making a scene just like she said, drawing attention. Sarah. And Bone slipped out the back. The alley was empty now. They ran. 2 blocks felt like 2 miles. Sarah's lungs burned. Her legs ached, but she kept running. The train station appeared ahead. A small building with a platform and tracks stretching out into the desert. They went inside. The station master looked up from his desk. He was an old man with white hair and spectacles. Help you? He asked. Box 17, Sarah said, holding up the key. The station master pointed to a wall of small metal boxes. Over there. Sarah found number 17. Her hands were shaking so bad she almost dropped the key. But she got it in the lock and turned it. The door opened. Inside was a leather satchel. Sarah pulled it out and opened. Dozens of them, letters, documents, all dated and signed, all showing exactly what Jake had said. Deals between the Scorpions and Marshal Cutler. Money, guns, murder, everything they needed. We got it, Sarah whispered. Then let's get out of here, Bone said. They turned to leave and stopped. Marshal Cutler stood in the doorway. This time he had 6 Scorpions with him, and all of them had guns pointed at Sarah and Bone. I'll take that satchel now, Cutler said. Sarah held it tighter. No. Cutler sighed. I really didn't want to kill you, Mrs. Cole. But you're not giving me much choice. He raised his gun, and that's when the explosion happened. The whole building shook, windows shattered, men shouted outside. Cutler spun around. What the hell, another explosion, closer this time. The Hell's Angels, Bone said, grinning. They're here. And they were. Through the broken window, Sarah saw motorcycles. 10 of them, 20, more. All roaring into Copper Ridge with Hell's Angels riders wearing their patches and carrying guns. They'd come for Jake. They'd come for Sarah. They'd come to finish this. Cutler's face went white. He looked at his men, then at the motorcycles, then at Sarah. This isn't over, he said, then he ran. His men ran with him. Bone grabbed Sarah's arm. They burst out of the station into chaos. Motorcycles everywhere. Gunfire. Shouting. The Scorpions were running. Cutler was running. The whole town was in panic. Bone led Sarah to where Jake's motorcycle was parked. He threw his leg over it and started the engine. Get on, he shouted. Sarah climbed on behind him, clutching the satchel. Bone twisted the throttle and they shot forward. Behind them, the Hell's Angels fought the Scorpions in the street. It was war, full and bloody and loud. But Sarah wasn't looking back anymore. She was looking ahead, to Phoenix, to the territorial governor, to justice for Jake. The motorcycle roared beneath her. Wind whipped her hair. The vest felt lighter now, like it fit. Jake had asked her to finish what he started, and Sarah Cole was going to do exactly that. The Hell's Angels don't cry. They collect. And Sarah just collected everything she needed to burn Marshal Cutler and the Scorpions to the ground. She smiled. Jake would have been proud. The end.